Hi, everybody. So I'm Jagmohan Chawla, and I'm a product manager with SAP Cloud ALM. And today I have the pleasure of with me a guest and the guest speaker for this channel, Gordon. And Gordon, who is one of the product owners in project and task management and actually many other topics, and also a chief architect. So, Gordon, warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
And we are really approached by partners and we are grilled on one big topic, APIs. And can you shed some light on what are the capabilities we have? Where can I get started by using APIs? That will be really fantastic.
Oh, yes, certainly. Probably I should start with sharing my screen in a minute just to show you what we have, what we've been doing. But over the last while, we've been successively implementing our APIs and building more and more powerful features into our APIs. And I think now I really like this because we have a great suite of features, of very powerful and useful features in our APIs. So let me just show you where all the information we have is available for these APIs. And this is on the SAP API Business Hub. Here you see all the APIs we have with very nice documentation. I love the documentation we have. Let's go into the task management API. And there you can see that we have an API reference. And this is done in what we casually call Swagger, but this is the Open API specification, which is a very well formatted and lovely way of describing our APIs. And here you can see all the operations we have for it. Yeah.
And I'm just curious. I see this area called try out. Can I literally try these APIs also on API Hub?
Yeah, you can. I don't want to show it today, but it's possible. We have a demo tenant behind this. If you log on with some credentials, you can actually try them out, run these in our demo tenants to test it for yourselves. What I'd like to show you, though, later on is one of the favorite things I've been doing is I've created in Visual Studio Code a Jupyter Notebook to experiment with these APIs, to explore these APIs, and to try them out in a much more interesting manner and a much more convenient manner, I think, than just running these APIs. You run them, it gives you a result. It's in JSON or a structured format. But we have really nice features of Jupyter Notebooks, which we can use using Python to call these APIs and get nice formatted output and do some fancy things with them. Do we want to go over to that, Jag? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. But let's take a step back. What is a Jupyter Notebook? And maybe once you go to that screen, let's start from absolute beginning.
Exactly. So I'll go over here, switch to this Jupyter Notebook, which I've been working on, and I'm not really finished with it. So we're going to go through some of it in this demo, see what happens. We can show you what goes on. But the cool thing about Jupyter Notebooks is this was designed for scientists, in particular data scientists, who are running experiments, who are trying out things. Okay. They call it a notebook because what you can do at the same time is you can write notes and documentation about what you're doing. Okay. And then you can run a cell of coding to get the data, to do data transformations, to do data analysis. And then you can write more about your observations or what you want to do in the next steps. So here you see and we're going to publish this on GitHub. I hope before this video is published, we'll get right on that. make that available to everyone. License conditions are here and so on. But I've written down everything you need to know to get started with this notebook in Markdown here. So including the scopes you need, the authentication information, blah, 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 all of that stuff, how to authenticate and onto your tenant and start working on it. But just going back to the topic of Jupyter Notebooks, you can see here, I have a code cell, but what I can do is create a simple Markdown cell just to say, doing here, and boom, I have a nicely formatted piece of documentation. And then below that, I can just create a coding cell. And this is, I'm using Python here as the language you can see here. So this is just coding I can write spontaneously and immediately implement. So I'm just going to write, say, and then boom, I run it. It took 0 seconds to run, very efficient. And I can keep creating these code cells. This time I'm just going to do absolutely nothing. This shows you how easy it is. And I just execute the code, and there you see it prints the output. It just prints the output of the last command. I could also write a print command, and it would write that. But you can see that if I want to try something out or test something out, I just run it here, and it prints out the result too in a nicely formatted manner.
Oh, perfect. So then now I understand. So that means you have your live code as well as the logic. Then maybe maybe let's get to your showcase on how the notebook can help me or somebody who is watching this video understand the capabilities of our APIs.
Yeah. So what I've done is preparation. I've got 2 Cloud ALM projects in 2 separate tenants. And the showcase I'm working on here is to show you how you can create one project, which would be your template project. Just set up everything in the project, all the requirements, user stories, tasks, everything you want once in one project. And using this code, you can copy this template project into a completely new project that you want to work on. And this saves you a lot of work if you have multiple projects to implement something that you do over and over again, that you have the same tasks all the time. This allows you to completely automate that process. Just set up one project the way you want to reuse it in one tenant, and then you can replicate the project as many times as you want, wherever you want.
Oh, wherever. Yeah. That means in completely a different tenant also.
Exactly. That's the showcase I'm working on here, is that I've set up 2 tenants. This is very interesting, I think, for partners who want to manage multiple tenants and get results from multiple tenants, bring them all together, for example, or in this case, in the showcase, where we have a very simple demo, set up one template once, one template project once in one tenant, and replicate it to multiple other target tenants, target projects. You can update the projects that way too. So you can have an automated process and manage many different tenants, just set up projects the way you want in all of them. Okay.
So Gordon, you've got me really excited now. So let's get to the showcase.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll switch screens again here, and let me go, first of all, into the target project. I've pre-created a project here in the tenant where we want to copy the project, and I've pre-created a project. We don't have to do it like that, but I've just put it here, the coding will look for a project with this name. If one doesn't exist, it creates it. If there is one, it'll just update it. So here we have a completely empty project, and then looking in the task view in the task UIs, you see that there's nothing there. Let's go to the next one. This is the other tenant. You can see this is the template project. I've got 4 tasks with a number of things assigned to it. You see there are a few scopes assigned. This task is assigned to scope 1. Since I didn't fully prepare everything, let's just go in and see if I can do something here. So I've assigned a solution process to this task in advance.
Okay.
So I have a few things like that already set up. And what I'm going to show, what I want to show in the showcase, is to just copy all this stuff over into this empty task. And that's what the coding is there. And so here, I'm going to go through and run the coding cells. Here's the basic things I need to set things up. Also, the very convenient thing of Python and many other libraries is that we have a lot of helper libraries that I'm just importing, and this is for the authentication and so on. You see, I've gotten authentication here in this case to log into my target tenant, and I've already done at the same time the same for the other project.
Okay.
So I'm just going to run through, do a few things here, get authorized for the template and target tenants, and then here is the first API I'm going to call. I'm just going to get all projects from this template tenant.
Okay.
Click here, boom, get a response. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, here I'm going to get a list of all projects, next API, calling the projects API, using that authentication information, and let's see what happens. It works. I got a list of all projects. And now
where
I'm going to do...
this? Where can I see this list?
So, and that's the next thing. And this is the other thing I really like about using Jupyter Notebooks and Python, because it's designed for data science.
Okay.
That a framework called Pandas is integrated into it. And that means that I can just import almost any kind of data, but in particular things like JSON or any structured data, and then do complex data manipulations, almost like using a programmatic version of a spreadsheet in my coding.
Okay.
And so you can see here, I'm importing Pandas, and I'm going to create a data frame out of this JSON response you saw before. You get a very cryptic looking JSON response back from the APIs. But I'm just going to do, really one line of actual coding and print out the data frame afterwards. Boom. There, I get a list of all the projects that I have with their names, what their status is. O is for open. We've got that documented. And then what the IDs are. And programmatically, we always work with these IDs. But here I have it in a matrix, really, with an index. And if I wanted to, I could easily do graphs, make graphs, do other complex data analysis, because that's all built in here. Here it's a quite simple list, but if you get into more and more of the data, looking at the tasks, we have large tasks of projects. You have limitless possibilities, really, to take the data and do analysis on it.
Perfect. Okay, so
Yeah.
now the list of projects, and then which one is the template project? Okay.
So it's conveniently, I've called it template project.
Okay.
So that's the one I was showing you before. And I'm just going to say here's a little bit of coding. I'm just going to say in my coding cell, and I could change that live if I wanted to, if I wanted any other project, I'm just going to say template project.
Okay.
And use this data frame. And I've just looked up in a few lines of coding
Okay.
easily enough as it is in Python and got the ID of it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The next thing I do, I'm just going to read the task list. And there I put it right immediately in a few lines of coding into a data frame. You can also see here are these 5 tasks I showed you with the scope IDs, with their other details, and so on. Really, really nice here.
Okay, just to understand, so you use the project API to get the list of projects, you got the template ID, and then use the task API with that ID as parameter, and now you're getting the tasks of that specific project, right?
Correct. Yeah, you see just the API is here. It's a task API.
Yep.
And I've got the project ID as a parameter. And I
Okay.
just say, okay, that's the URL I need to call.
Okay.
And here, do the call. I print, here you see I printed the response code, which was HTTP 200, which means, okay, everything went well. Take the response JSON and just pack it into a data frame as well. And this is what I'll be doing later on in the coding. You probably don't want to go through all the details here right now. Look it up on GitHub.
Yep.
But here, this is where I can do all the manipulation of the data. And in particular, I've got the IDs right now in my template project, and I'm going to start copying these over into the target project. But I want to keep a reference to these original IDs. So I can later on, if I want to do an update from the original project, I have the connection between the template task and the copied task in my target project.
Okay. So just to get this right, so that means when you programmatically push these tasks into the different tenant, then they will get different IDs. And
Yes.
now you need somewhere a key, a primary keys to identify which is the parent template task ID. And then in each target tenant, it can have a different ID, but you still want to use that unique key to update wherever it is existing, right? So,
Yeah.
okay. Now that's clear. Okay, let's proceed.
And you can see we have here a convenient field called external ID.
Okay.
And that's what we've foreseen for this. So what I'm going to do when I create the tasks in the target template, I'm going to create tasks with exactly these names. They'll get new IDs because these IDs are supposed to be globally unique.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do in the code is I take this globally unique ID and copy it into the external ID field in the new task. And this keeps the reference from what I had in my template project
Okay.
to the tasks which I have replicated out of it, the copies of this tasks. So
Oh,
anytime I need to go and update the original one, I can find the copies of this task too.
okay. So that means the external ID attribute, which we typically use for, let's say, a Jira project ID or some other tool. In this case, we are using it to link to the original template task GUID. Okay.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And so what I'm doing now here in this next cell is I'm going to call one of the process management APIs
Okay.
and get the list of scopes from the template project.
So are you also planning to create scopes and processes from the template project to the target project?
Yes, that's what I'm working on, because
Wow.
the scope assignment is something really new. As I said, we're always extending these APIs, and the ability to assign processes to tasks and user stories and requirements. We just delivered last week. It's less than a week old now that
Okay.
we've delivered it. So I don't have all the coding complete for that in this notebook, but I'll get that done before I publish it, and probably, I hope, before this video is published. And then you can go look at it yourself, how it works.
Okay.
And this
Okay.
is the next thing I've got here. You can see I retrieved the scopes, also put it into a scopes data frame for me to keep track of everything here.
Mhm.
And here you can see I'm experimenting around with the solution process assignments.
Mhm.
And here you can see, now I'm going to have to do some manipulating of the coding on the fly. You can see the new solution process assignments API under the task API.
Mhm.
And I'm going to give it several parameters. I'm going to give it a project ID, but I also have to give it a task ID. This is an experiment from an old project that I have. So this task ID isn't going to help me much at all. It won't be valid. I'm just going to run the coding, and I print out the JSON from the task process assignments, and you see there's an empty array
Okay.
because this task doesn't exist. So it doesn't blow up or anything like that. It
Okay.
just says, no, nothing.
Mm.
And let's go over and look at that task that I was showing you before that was assigned to a process. So here we have this one called project task for footprint management.
Mhm.
I'll go over back to the coding and let's look this up. So this looks about like the right one, and
Mhm.
here's the ID. So I'm just going to take this for the purposes of our experiment to copy this and then replace this parameter with the ID of the task I'm interested in. And I'm just going to run this version of the updated code, and boom, there we go. We've
Ah,
got
okay.
output. We got all the information that we need about the process. So it's a lot of information, but we have a relation ID, which is what we use to track
Mhm.
if a task is assigned to a process. Each of these relations gets its own ID. We have an ID of a task. Of course, always we get the project back. We get the scope that I was showing you before. You can see here that's scope 1 from the ID. We get the solution scenario version ID as well, which is something perhaps sounds very technical and cryptic. It is, but we need that to find out. And we also have a solution process ID. So let's just keep going. So as you saw here, I got the assignment. And this is the piece of coding. Since it's so new, I haven't completed the coding yet. But of course, what I'm going to do is get all this information. And when I copy everything over into the target project, I'm going to recreate the assignments afterwards. Because the APIs, which we've just published, not only can you read the assignments of processes to tasks, requirements, user stories, but you can write them, you can update them too. And that's something where APIs are really building upon each other, where the amount of functions that we have, the use for them, rises exponentially because they complement each other so much. So our colleagues working in process management are expanding their APIs, which we can use to get all kinds of information about the scoped solution processes, which we can use to scope solution processes to do the whole scoping. And now with our extensions, we can take all of this from that API, get all this information and use it to assign these things in tasks, requirements, user stories, everything like that.
Okay, so just to understand it, let's say you went to the template project ID, got all the tasks, then you queried all the tasks, and for those tasks you got the scopes in place, and in the target project you are going to recreate those scopes. And are you also going to put the solution processes also in scope in the target project, in the target tenant?
Yes,
okay.
That's what I intend to do, at least. I haven't gotten all that far yet, but I hope before I publish it, it will be.
Okay.
Right now, I've just gotten enough to do the creation of scopes.
Okay.
And soon, I hope I will be able to do the creation, the scoping of solution processes, and then the final assignments. Okay. And you can see here that's why all this coding is just here. This is me experimenting and exploring the APIs.
Okay.
And so I'm just looking up IDs and things like that. I think we don't need to go into anything more, but this is what I'm going to clean up and publish a little bit later on this week.
Okay, then when can we see the magic? When can we see this project populated in your target tenant?
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do, use one of the convenience functions in the Jupyter Notebook. I'm just going to say from this cell on down, I'm just going to run everything because I have a bunch of things. And let's see what happens. This is also one of the fun things because I'm never quite sure if it will succeed or fail, but it's easy enough to fix. So you can see it's running through. Let's just go down to what I've been doing. So here you can see I've done more things. I've got all tasks with assignments, gotten list. And here you can see I created the project. Looking in the target tenant to see, is there a project called Gordon Target Project? It found it. So I don't need to create it. This is the coding. If it hadn't been there, I would have created it. And here you can see I create the scopes. Okay. Create new scopes in the new project. I read the scopes again, and then I do a mapping from the old scopes to the new scopes. So that I'm doing this in the data frame. You can see I'm mapping this here just in this program, what the target project ID is and what the target scope ID is. And then here I go through and create all the tasks. And by tasks, we also mean things like requirements, user stories, defects. Go through and just do the copying. And this is also where the point comes in where we maintain this external ID. You can see I'm switching the ID of the original task and writing it into the external ID of the new task. Okay, yeah. You can see I go through and then I do some rereading just to see what happens in the target. You can see now there are tasks there. Then I do a second run over this. Maybe it's not the best coding style, but this is for examples and for exploration. So I'm just creating things to find out or demonstrate how they work. Of course, if you were doing this in real life, you'd do it much more efficiently with less copy and pasting and with more reuse of coding. But here I'm doing, after I create all the real tasks, I have to go through and create any subtasks because we don't allow subtasks to exist without a parent task. I do
Okay,
that
so it has to be two steps. So the parent has to exist before the subtask creation can start. Okay, got it.
Exactly. So I have to do two passes. And then probably what I'll do after I've completed that, this is where maybe an additional pass, now that I've created the scopes, I've created the tasks, requirements, and so on, then I'd also, at that point, I've got everything lined up, then I'd start creating the relationships between the processes and the tasks as well. This is where I'm working on it right now.
Okay, then can we look into your tenant? And
let's do that. Let's see what happens. This is the exciting part. So here's what I showed you before. This is my Gordon target project, completely empty. I'm going to press the refresh button and see what happens. And boom, there we go. All these tasks are recreated in my template project. And there you see they have the replicated scopes as well.
Perfect. Okay, so as a partner, then let's say if I have my own tenant, then maybe I have SAP Analytics Cloud subscription and I have my own tenant as a customer, and I use that tenant to maintain my methodology, and I work with 10 different customers. I can use this technique today. That means this is already productive. So I can potentially keep maintaining my tasks, my proprietary information in my tenant and push it to multiple customer tenants, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works, what we intended, and it's available today.
Wow. Honestly, that's mind-blowing, because this is something that is available today, especially with this even scope creation and relation assignment. That's real power there.
Yeah. You can also see, as an aside, that we got a few bonus tasks here. You see there are 16 tasks here, but there were only 5 tasks in the original project. And that's because of the scoping. Whenever we create a scope and take things into scope, we automatically generate some tasks. So that's maybe something that, depending on your use case, you might also want to reconsider. You can use the APIs depending on what you want to do. You can change the status of these automatically generated tasks. They're easy to find, easy to pick out, or you can obsolete them or even delete them.
Okay, that's really interesting. So this is the scope specific tasks which get generated per scope, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
You mentioned something about obsolescence and deletion. So maybe explain a little bit, how can I get rid of these tasks if I don't want them?
Yeah, this is one thing I love doing because I love cleaning up things. So we have a nice mass edit function.
Okay.
We have a 2-step procedure, though, just to make sure you don't do things by accident, that you don't delete things by accident, because when you delete these tasks, they're gone forever. So what we can do, we can set them first to obsolete. We can do this individually, or here there's a convenient mass edit mode. I'm just going to say, set them all to obsolete.
Okay.
The system warns me about what I'm doing, and you can see they're gone from the list. There are only 13 items that are being displayed here. That's fine. Normally, they're out of sight, out of mind, don't have to worry about them. But if I want to thoroughly clean things up, really permanently delete these things, I don't like them, I want to get rid of them forever.
Yeah.
I'll just change my filter. It's hidden away a little bit. We don't want people doing this by accident. This is for advanced users only. I set these to obsolete. My filter, So now I just see these 3 obsolete tasks. And if I want to get rid of them forever, I don't really want to, but if I wanted to, I could simply click on the delete button and they would be gone forever.
Okay, this is fantastic. Means, let's say, again, I'm just thinking from a partner scenario that maybe I have like a generic methodology which doesn't fit everybody, but even if I push it, I can selectively clean the customer tenants and mass delete certain tasks which are not applicable. So that way it's easier maintenance for me centrally in my tenant. So that will be still quite convenient.
Exactly. You have full control over what you want to do.
Okay, but any initial push is fine. Will this process also work for updates? So maybe can you just explain a little bit? So if I now update my template project, how do I push the updates to these target tenants?
Yes, indeed. I don't have a handy example here, but it's easy enough to do. For example, if I wanted to, if I, let's say, for whatever reason, wanted to have the status of a task in my template project always set automatically to in progress. I could set this here, and then all I would have to do is go back to the coding, which
Okay.
reads out these tasks.
Mhm.
And let's see if I just do it once more, read it out. You can see they have these external API IDs maintained. So I just have to pick out the task matching the external ID
Okay.
and update it with the API. Just
Ah,
take the data that I had from my original task, which I can read by API,
okay.
compare it with this task, and update the fields I want to, because I always have this link using the external ID.
Ah, okay. So external ID is acting as a kind of bridge or kind of uniquely identifying the records which should be identified in the target tenants. Got it.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. Instead of create, we just use update, but the process remains the same.
Yeah.
Okay, this was really valuable, Gordon. I mean, honestly, I'm really excited about the future where we are taking it and the kind of updates that are coming. So, any last words that you want people, or any tips or tricks that people should know? Anything that you want to share?
No, again, as I mentioned before, we're making this, and we have other examples, similar examples of all the things you can do with our APIs published on GitHub for everyone to take a look, to try out on yourself, get ideas of what you could do. Also, of course, this very convenient SAP Business API Hub, where you can try things out yourself, but nicely read all the documentation we have prepared, an open API specification, which tells you everything you need to about how to make the requests, what comes back in the response, what are our schemes that we use if you want to know what the codes are for the various status values. We have all this documented in what I think is a really nice and easy to consume form here in the SAP API Business Hub.
Okay, this was really impressive and a lot of detailed information. I'm really excited and to see where the product is heading and the power of these APIs. So before we wrap up this video, Gordon, anything else that you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, we love our APIs, but we also know that we have business users who love their spreadsheets. And we have a spreadsheet upload function as well. And that's also one of the things we've added in parallel to the process assignment via API. We have this in the spreadsheet upload too. So you can take as a template or just for update, you can download, for example, all your requirements. You get the list of all the data you need for all the scoped processes in your project, and you just have to enter them in Excel in the spreadsheet. And then you can upload again, and there you have, in a very convenient way, a mass edit done without having to touch our APIs.
Okay, so just to get it right, if I started with requirements from thin air, or I have a mass update of requirements, now retrospectively, I can do this mass process assignment to get my solution process traceability report working. That's really powerful. That's
yeah,
really
exactly.
powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I enjoyed the video. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up and stay tuned to the channel. Thanks and have a great day.
Thank you very much. It's been great.